I suppose the first question I wanted to ask you is a pretty basic one, but what exactly does a music lawyer do? How does your day unfold? What do you do each day?
Well, I guess it's probably similar to most other lawyers. It's just that our clients happen to be in the music industry. So in terms of the work we're doing, a lot of it is contract-based. So it's really just an extension of commercial contract law. So our clients really are most often musicians or in bands, and they come to us with agreements either that they need drafted or they need reviewed.
Let's talk about contracts. Contracts are obviously a very important part of the industry.
Yeah, a really important part of the industry. Without going into, I guess, to too much detail, I mean, musicians and bands and artists own various copyrights, and they deal with other people with respect to those copyrights, or for certain services. So the most common agreements that we come across would be, say, recording or licensing agreements for a recording that the band might make or own. There's obviously publishing agreements, then there's management agreements, then there's band agreements, producer agreements, all types of things. So that's what people come to us mostly about. And I guess, contracts and relationships with third parties is pretty much what drives the industry.
Okay. And do you find musicians these days are pretty well versed in that you have to have a contract, or are they still a little bit ignorant to it, in your opinion?
Look, I think that when they get to a certain level, they realise it's a necessary evil, and certainly I wouldn't say they're ignorant to it, because people, once they start investing time, effort, money into their careers and their music and their songs, then they're certainly at the forefront of their mind is, how can I protect it, number one. Two, how can I exploit and make some money off it? So that's when people come and see us and sort of say, well, what can I do in this situation? Someone's approached me, or I want to put my music up online, or I want to try and get my music in a film, or there's, as I said, someone wants to manage me, etc. So they actually realise that they need to get some help in that area.
Okay. And mate, are there a lot of legal battles going on in Australia these days? Like, do people get sued left, right, and centre, or take each other to court, or?
Well, it's funny because I guess that half the job, as I said, is contract based, and I guess the other half of what we do is giving people advice in respect of disputes. So I guess a more common one might be in relation to a copyright dispute, and that is, it's not really, people think that they're fighting over who owns a song or who wrote a song or something like that. And there might be a little bit of that, like bands within themselves sort of need to make arrangements and sometimes get into arguments as to who owns what, especially when you've got a group of 4 or 5 people that have contributed to making a recording or contributed to writing a song. Then disputes can arise. Then there's other types of disputes that can arise where someone's using a song or music or a recording without permission. And then, it can get a little bit litigious. I mean, we're doing one at the moment which is quite a high-profile case and worth a lot of money for use of music in a audio-visual production without permission. And so our client sort of is the composer and owner of a very famous song, and someone's come along and put it, not just someone, but a big organisation has come and put it on a promo video that they've sent out to everyone to promote what they're doing using our music without permission. So that's one that is actually before the federal court at the moment, where we've commenced proceedings. So that can happen. Others are often about someone owing somebody else money, which is obviously the most common. And then there's, bands break up and relationships end. And when relationships end, people get their claws out and try and think, well, hang on, I paid for that. I helped write that song. You owe me money. And at that time, if you don't pay them their money, then they might end up in court. I guess the thing about court, though, I mean, look, this is not, LA law or anything like that. I mean, going to court's expensive, and it's very expensive, and probably unfairly prohibitively expensive for an industry like the music industry, where frankly most people can't afford it. But there are times when unfortunately it is necessary. But I mean, it's always got to be the desire of everybody to try and work things out before you get to that, before you get to that stage. I mean, engaging lawyers is expensive enough, but then having to deal with running a court case is crazy.
One of my questions on my list today to ask you was, can you comment on the statement that usually the person with the deepest pockets tends to win the court cases? Is that?
Yeah, well, it helps. It helps, unfortunately. And it's not that they'll win the court case if they've got the deepest pockets. What it means is they've got the ticker or the means to see it through. Whereas if you're really stretched financially and you can see how much is going out of your bank account, and frankly there's not much left, then you're going to sort of be the one that puts up your hand and say, hey, look, I just can't do this anymore. Let's work something out. At the end of the day too, you can't get blood out of a stone. So if there's no point in a big corporation suing, and I've sort of seen this before, a 19-year-old musician with no money for whatever reason, because they're not going to get anything out of them. But I think what we love is actually, and I thought about this, I saw this question. I mean, what we love is actually clients who actually have a belief in what their position is, and they're prepared to stick it out to the absolute furthest extent possible and not get intimidated, because it's easy for lawyers and, as you say, people with deep pockets to intimidate and to go out of their way to rack up costs and to use all these, I guess I won't say underhanded, but all tactics in order to just prolong the process, increase the cost, whereby if you don't have much money, you start freaking out. And what I say to people is, you're only as strong as your case. So someone with a lot of money that doesn't have a good case, well, all the money in the world is not going to make them have a good case. So sometimes you've just got to fight it out and believe in what it is that you're doing.
Okay. And Darren, when does it actually become an issue? Like, let's say I'm a DJ, I've sampled someone's music. When does it actually become an issue? Is it when I start making money from it? Is that basically it?
Yeah, well, one of my sayings I always say to people is, you've only got a problem when there's a problem. Okay. You can sit there and anticipate all the problems that may arise, and they may well arise, and I think everyone owes it to themselves and to the people they're working with to try and do things properly. So and that's partly what we do, is to make sure that whenever a band does something, or that they've got all their licenses and things in place. But I guess you have a problem when someone feels that you're infringing on their rights.
Okay. And what sort of things can I do about it? Let's just say, I've found that someone has sampled my music and they're using it in a dance track. What are my options?
Look, that's where it gets hard, and I think, look, it's not just about suing people, because as I said, that's expensive and time consuming, and you need to have a lot of ticker for that. But certainly, if your rights are being infringed, then you need to stop it from continuing. So you might write a letter. They call it a cease and desist letter to say stop doing that as of now. And in the event that they don't, then you can take it to the next level. And I guess at the other point is if you actually feel that it's cost you money, or someone has really done something that's injured you professionally, then you are at liberty to sue them, to start proceedings.
Get the gloves on, huh?
Absolutely.
Can you give any young artist out there some advice on how to choose a good music industry lawyer?
Look, I started off like yourself. I'm a musician, and I started, in my last life, I played in bands and ran a little recording studio and sort of worked as a bit of a producer. So I guess to that regard, I mean, if I'm going to be honest, does that make me a better lawyer? Well, of course not. But does it make me actually understand and relate to my clients, because I've been there and I know what they're going through, and I've been that poor struggling musician for years. I know exactly what it's like, and I know what the issues are that face up and coming bands and musos and people, I guess, in music generally. So I think that finding someone that has some experience at that level is definitely an advantage.
Yeah, so they've got some empathy for musicians.
Empathy for musicians, and also can empathise and can relate, because you go to a corporate lawyer who's never worked, doesn't know anything about the music industry, well, you're not going to be on the same wavelength. And I think that's what, so I suppose for young people I'd say, find someone that understands what you're doing and that can talk to you at your level.